If you like to rip tech as much as I do, then today is a very exciting day. We're about to take this fully built K-motored EK hatchback for a rip at TMP. So this is our friend Andy Lamb's EK hatchback. It's a 98, and as you can see, it's painted the correct color for a Honda race car, championship white. And I guess the standout feature would be the motor. It has a built K24 under the hood that makes about 275 at the wheel. It's got Weisseco pistons, Krillo rods, a light and crankshaft, all that good stuff. So I'm looking forward to driving it because I built a motor very similar to this 10 years ago that I put in my EG race car, and it only lasted a few laps before it blew up. My buddy Turtle was driving it then, so I didn't even get to try it. So this is like getting in a time machine, going back to my roots. It's also got motion control system dampers, MCS dampers. I had Motons on my EG, same company, names have changed for reasons we won't go into, so there's a lot here that's gonna feel very familiar to me if I was 10 years younger than I am now. Let's see if I can drive as well as I did 10 years ago though. All right guys, this is pretty exciting. I have no idea how well you'll be able to, there's no windows in this car. It's a gutted race car after all. I do know that he's got the JDM gear set in here with a 5.1 final drive and a CAS 1.5 way limited slip differential. That's a clutch type diff. Should work very well around here. The gears are going to be really short, so it's going to take me a few laps to get a feel for what gear I should be in. I'm just going to take my time here on the first couple of laps and warm up the tires. Feels good already. Man, a built K-motor is such a special thing. Feels like it's got a very aggressive alignment in it and it really wants to turn. This thing is going to be a handful once we get going because it's got so much power on a street tire. These are Hankook RS4s. This is just Andy's personal lapping car. It's not a competition car. He just built it. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I've sweat through my Volk Racing shirt here because that is an involving little beast. What a motor, man. It feels so good to rip a K24 to like 8,400 RPM. It's a honey of an engine, no doubt about it. The chassis side it took me a bit of getting used to. Didn't have ABS, which I didn't realize at first, and with that helmet on, the sound attenuation is so good that I couldn't hear the rear brakes locking up, but I could tell they were locking up because the car was trying to swap ends a bit. You have to be really gentle on the brakes, otherwise the back locks up and it gets pretty exciting in the brake zones. Even in a couple of spots where there's bumps in the brake zones, even when I'm like barely on the brakes, it's trying to twitch around and swap ends on you. So there's some learning for me to do there with the brake pedal, and I think if Andy went to a milder rear pad, it would probably help with that too. We're also going to soften up the suspension quite a bit because the car is pretty bumpy on a street tire, which doesn't make a ton of grip. So I think if we soften the whole setup up, it'll let the tires work better and will allow it to sort of soak up the bumps a little bit better. So anyway, super awesome car to drive. Here we go for round 2. Andy's Wild EK. What a fun car to drive. I just love these classic 90s Hondas. They're so pure. Got the double wishbone suspension. They've got no weight to them at all. Just makes all the right noises. We've softened up the dampers. 4 clicks in the front, 2 clicks in the rear. Now that I have a bit more of a clue about the brakes, I'll see if I can use them in the right way without locking up the rear so much and try to put in a decent lap time here. 119.98. She's in the 19s, people. That's an accomplishment. Braking 120 here is not easy, and with a naturally aspirated front wheel drive car, I think anytime you brake 120, you're pretty happy. The car has definitely got 118s in it, maybe even high 117s if we can get the brakes working a little better. We just had a lot of rear brake lockup, so I was having to be very cautious with the brake pedal, and really there wasn't a lot I could do other than downshifting a little earlier, using that for some engine braking was kind of my workaround for that. But now that Andy, the owner, and I have chatted about it, I think he's going to try a less aggressive rear pad and maybe even a brake bias valve to try to get the car stopping better, because that's the only thing that's holding this car back right now. It's that close to being a real rocket ship. Otherwise, it's dialed in nicely, and it's got a lot of good stuff in here, actually. Why don't we have a peek under the hood, Pete? We already mentioned that it's got a built K24. It's got 12.5-to-1 compression Wiseco pistons, Carrillo rods. He's used all the good stuff. Gord Bush built the motor, who's kind of like Toronto's maybe most reputable Honda engine builder. And he's also done a lot of other cool stuff in here to keep this thing running cool. It's like an endurance race car. You can just go lap after lap after lap. The tires overheat, but the car was never felt like it was getting hot. The engine felt strong every lap, and he's got an engine oil cooler, a transmission oil cooler, and a power steering cooler in there because he's using that MR2 electric power steering pump. So he's keeping all of that really cool. And as a result, it just feels like a car you could drive forever. And I want to drive it forever because it's super fun to rip. You can see he's got some aero on here too. He's built his own splitter for the front. He picked up these PCI side skirts from Chris Boersma, who's a well-known time attack guy around here with an EK coupe. So he had to shorten them up, I think, for the hatchback body size. He's got the PCI rear wing. He's got a full Lexan rear window like I had on my EG back in the day. This thing's just bringing back all the memories. And he's done a really unique thing with the fenders. He's given them this sort of geometric shape, which I've never seen done before. It kind of reminds me of like the spoon fenders on the S2000s. It's a really unique look, and I actually really like it. He's pulled them out a bunch too to make it clear this 15x8 225 setup, which has a spacer in there that gives it a 15 mil offset, so it's quite an aggressive track width that he's got on the car. What about inside, Peter? Well, it's got race car stuff. It's got a prefabricated roll cage that Andy welded in himself. It's got a Recaro bucket with the head restraints, which was a challenge for me to fit my giant head between. It's got a quick release steering wheel, K-Tunes shifter box, of course. Every Honda race car needs one of those. Just looking it up on our lap time leaderboard here, and it came this close to beating the Badass 2000, which did a 119.92. This did a 119.98, so 6/100ths of a second between it and Ultimate S2000's flaying glory. It'll go faster with a little brake upgrade like we mentioned. So that actually makes it, I think, the 5th fastest car on our leaderboard. Well done, Andy Lamb. Great car. Thanks so much for letting me take it for a rip. I had a blast. Took me back to my Honda roots for the day. I think we're gonna call this one a wrap, PT. That's it for this VTech extravaganza. If you enjoyed us ripping tech today, give us a thumbs up. And let us know in the comments section what you'd like to see us add to our lap time leaderboard. Be it a stock press car or a tuned car or one of our project cars. Let us know, and we'll do our best to meet that request.